Hey guys, before we begin, I wanted to let you know that you can now see exclusive weekly updates on all of my projects, including 5 years later, over on my Patreon for just $1. Go check it out. Looks like we hit 100,000 subscribers. Well, I guess we hit a little bit more since then, but hey, at least I made the video. As voted by the fans, we are doing a part 2 to the 5YL facts video, where you can get behind the scenes information on the trending Danny Phantom / Ben 10 crossover series. As part 1 covered facts from chapters 1 through 3, this video will cover facts from chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can find a link to the first part of this video in the description, back when my microphone was utter garbage. It should be noted that this video contains heavy spoilers for everything released so far. So if you want to check out the series with a fresh take, now's your last chance. A link to the full series will be in the description below. And now, without further ado, here's OR Ash and Hershey, both who work very close with me on the series, to take it away.
Hey guys, it's Hershey here.
Good evening, Internet World and Universe!
Alright guys, we got a lot of facts here, so take it away, Ash.
Let's begin with some production facts. Number 1. Volume 1, which consists of chapters 1, 2, and 3, is mainly centered around Danny, while Volume 2, being chapters 4, 5, and 6, are focused more on Ben. This is to help newer audiences learn about each other's worlds more.
Number 2. Chapter 4, The Fallen Gods, and Chapter 5, Oversight, were originally written as one chapter, but since production began slowing down on the comic as other Ink Tank projects came into play, what was completed of Chapter 4 so far was released as its own entire chapter, and when the rest was finished, it was released as Chapter 5.
Number 3. This also resulted in Chapter 4 being the first and so far the only chapter with neither Ben or Danny to appear in it.
Number 4. The flashbacks in Chapter 4 are done in a slightly different art style. Characters have much more defined and realistic features with a pure black hard shading technique, which resembles Kuro's previous webcomic, Dead.
Number 5. Originally, there was a scene planned to show Eon first getting captured by young Max Tennyson, Devin Levin, Phil Billings, and Constantine Jacobs, and then contain him inside of a stasis tube as a reference to the Ben 10 film Race Against Time. But when Chapter 4 was being reworked into 2 separate chapters for a sooner release, Kuro forgot to put it in. Thanks, Kuro.
Number 6. The Cronian society is so advanced that everything is powered by the Cronians themselves, as their essence when manipulating reality is much stronger than electricity and lasts much longer. The buildings are made of a mixture of stone and black metal similar to vibranium. Plants grow in a way that is opposite from our dimension, such as trees starting out as a bush of leaves and then growing a trunk and roots above them, giving the appearance of an upside down tree. Number 7. Kuro also wanted to immediately show how powerful Cronians are at manipulating reality right on the first page. You can see one Cronian forming a CGI cube in his palms, breaking the comic's art style, and another Cronian warping the outline of the panel they are standing in.
Number 8. The idea for Dr. Animo to be constantly swapping his body parts came from the fact that in the future he is shown only as a head attached to a large silverback gorilla. So in 5 years later, he already began losing parts of his body. The part about him changing his limbs to different animals and aliens came from Mr. Potato Head.
Number 9. Technus was not in the initial draft of 5 years later, until he was suggested by former character designer Alex Gotro. This decision became vital in the later chapters, where he controls an army of nanite-infested alternate Bens.
Number 10. The decision to give Vlad an entirely new outfit came about because Kuro was tired of drawing Vlad's cape. As it restricted a lot of the shots we wanted for certain panels, Vlad taking a lot of battle damage in the 3rd chapter was the in-universe excuse for him to get a new uniform.
Number 11. Chapter 5 had the most location changes so far, and was the most aggravating for Kuro to design and create all of the different parts of the Plumber headquarters. Each room can be mapped out in detail on the official 5 years later wiki.
Number 12. Originally, when Ben was going to introduce Rook to Danny as his partner, Danny would misinterpret this to mean Ben and Rook are in a relationship, but Danny never questions it.
This would lead to a running gag where Danny would constantly misinterpret conversations Ben and Rook have with each other in front of Danny, believing they are going through a relationship arc throughout the story. Gwendolyn and Kevin would eventually pick up on this and play along.
This was cut because Kuro couldn't find a way to add it in without it taking too much away from the story, but still thinks the idea is funny.
Number 13. Gwendolyn reveals in Chapter 5 that Max had been promoted to Magistratus, but in Chapter 1, Rook refers to Max as Magister. This is the first and so far the only major continuity error in 5 years later.
Number 14. Ben's argument with Lula, Eon's explanation about ecto-energy, and Max's advice for Ben were all key speeches to 5 years later that were written as far back as chapters 1 and 2, and have been slightly tweaked up until they were released. These scenes had to be perfect, and sometimes a simple sentence of dialogue would be rewritten dozens of times until each word sounded just right.
Number 15. From the previous fact, the hardest scene to write was Ben's flashback on how he came up with his catchphrase, "It's hero time." The scene kept dragging on for too long, and at one point was almost cut entirely, until Kuro figured out how to give all the information in as little words as possible, so the reader would not lose interest.
Number 16. The follow the temporal trail scene was almost cut and replaced with Professor Paradox showing up and simply taking the heroes to Zim's dimension because we didn't think the audience would get it. It was kept because we always wanted the characters to figure things out for themselves rather than being told what to do.
Number 17. Aside from Danny and Ben, Kuro considers Eon and Vlad to be main characters with their own journey as well, and not just the villains of the protagonists. Whenever they are not in a witty battle with the heroes, Eon and Vlad act more reserved and human-like, showing they have personalities beyond being evil.
Number 18. Ultraviolent's Cosmic Drill attack went through a few names before settling on the final, such as Violent Vortex and Ultra Driller.
Number 19. Kuro spent 4 months researching and rewriting the black hole scene so it would make as much scientific sense as possible. Quite frankly, he's still not completely sure it makes sense, but was confident in the idea when he saw a similar thing had happened in an episode of Justice League Action.
Number 20. All the space scenes in Chapter 6 are shaded using a slightly different technique, where none of the shadows were allowed to touch the edge of the character. It helps to imply that they're in a weightless area with no singular source of light. This made the shading process take much longer, and after the chapter was released, Kuro didn't think it was really worth it.
Number 21. Originally, Ben's Alien X scene was written as a private conversation between Ben and Gwendolyn, but having all the other characters present helped bring up different arguments and reintroduce the concept to newer fans.
Number 22. Chapter 7 features the first page that was worked on by someone other than Kuro. The page where Peskyduss is reading Zim's mind was shaded by Kuro's good friend, Scorchelay, using her tablet. This is because Kuro wanted the scene to have a special, softer kind of shading that Scorchelay's art is known for. Number 23. Knowing that it would probably take the longest, the origami scene in Chapter 7 was the first scene illustrated. Surprisingly, it only took 8 days to create. That's a day longer than God took to make the world.
Number 24. As chapters got more elaborate in the amount of designs needed per issue, Kuro hired Ryan Asher, aka OR Ash, to join the Ink Tank as an additional character designer and story consultant. His first project was the Evo transformations the alternate Bens would use at the end of Chapter 7.
I did these too.
Number 25. In December 2018, Alex had left the Ink Tank due to creative differences and to pursue his own projects. The departure was non-hostile, and we here at the Ink Tank are thankful for the time and effort he had given us. And you can see all of his original concept art on the first 7 chapters over on Kuro's website. We wish him the best of luck in his own endeavors. Now, let's move on to some fun facts.
Number 26. The opening to Chapter 5, Oversight, is supposed to be reminiscent of the opening to Alien Force's episode Above and Beyond. The room that they're gathered in is even loosely modeled after the one that the Amalgam kids receive at Max's distress call-in.
Number 27. Each of the Orion squad has a special ability, but we wanted to introduce them as characters first before elaborating on their powers, which is why they don't have any physical combat yet. They are planned to receive more attention and relevance in later chapters.
Number 28. Starting with the captain, Lula has enhanced speed, strength, and reflexes, and carries special throwing knives similar to Batman's Batarang, which are modeled after their own color scheme. She's inspired to join the plumber ranks when she saw footage of Ben using Fast Track to put an end to a planet-wide invasion. As her species is typically slower than most of these speedster species, seeing Ben save the day as Fast Track inspired her to become a hero of her own.
Number 29. Crunch comes from an aquatic region of Terradino, the same home planet as Humongosaur. He has incredible reaction time and sharp shooting skills, but can also inflate his arms into stronger armored state, which also increases his strength. He comes from the lower financial class in his society, where crime was very common, but he had a golden heart through his struggles. His father had ambitions to become a plumber, but stayed on his home planet to protect his family. To fulfill his father's legacy, Crunch enrolled in the Plumber Academy.
Number 30. Eve and Chirp come from the same planet as Crash Hopper. When they were younger, their planet was invaded by Dictatious aliens, but then they were saved by Gwendolyn and Ben. This was the very same planet Lula saw footage from on a previous fact. As their species are typically known to be on their own once they hatch, Gwendolyn adopted Eve and Chirp, teaching Eve how to use magic.
Number 31. Eve's real name is impossible to pronounce by those not native to her species, as it involves making specially timed and pitched chirping sounds by special vibrational cords.
If you want to know Eve's real name, it's... Can we keep that? Can we keep that, please?
She chose the name Eve because it was the first female name she learned of when studying about Earth culture, and she thought it was pretty. Chirp's name was chosen out of irony, as he is a mute, and does not speak to anyone but Eve in his own language.
Number 32. When Gwendolyn was offered the job at frickin' university to become a full-time professor, she did not have much time for even Chirp anymore. So they aspired to join the Plumber Academy to become their own heroes as well.
Number 33. Lastly, we have Gotro, a galvanic mechamorph like Ben's transformation upgrade. Gotro was a major slacker on Galvan B and was sent to the Plumber Academy to achieve self-discipline and self-respect. With the ever-growing arsenal of tech-based gadgetry at the Plumber Academy, Gotro was given the chance to use his abilities as an advantage. Proving such abilities impressed the likes of Commander Ben Tennyson and was sent to join the Orion Squad.
Number 34. Starting with Chapter 5, Danny's regularly shown in a spare plumber's long-sleeve shirt. This implies that Danny has run out of clean clothes since entering Ben's dimension and now relies on a spare plumber merchandise. But you can now get on the Ink Tank store. What?
Number 35. The advanced plumber uniforms that the heroes wear are based on the future uniforms shown in the Ben 10 Omniverse finale.
Number 36. The portals in Vlad's temporal trail show the exact locations he teleported from in previous chapters, which were the Bellwood Desert and Zim's house. The portals surrounding the trail are miscellaneous dimensions, which are the Candy Bar from Jimmy Neutron, Planet Namek from Dragon Ball Z, and an edited picture of Kuro with a mustache nicknamed Churro, which was an older meme in the official Discord.
Number 37. Every time Danny uses his abilities, he becomes more powerful. He goes from barely catching falling debris with ice powers in Chapter 3 to combining his ghostly well and phantom flame into the flaming howl in Chapter 6 to sporting permanently flaming hair and green eyes in Chapter 7. He also shows growth in his combat as he dodges, catches, and throws back one of Vlad's devices after falling for this move the first time.
Number 38. Gwendolyn has gained the ability to summon Guardians of Legerdome and names them after the works of theater such as Hamilton and Evita shown in Chapter 6.
Number 39. Ghost Freak is the only one of Ben's transformations to be used more than once so far. This was decided when Kuro kept wanting to emphasize how much more powerful Vlad was over Danny by having him phase out of Ghost Freak's tendrils when Danny could not.
Number 40. Another callback is shown in Chapter 6, when Vlad punches Danny across the face in a very similar fashion that Danny has done back in Chapter 3.
Number 41. Between Chapter 6 and 7, Ben had to use blocks to rebuild the damaged parts of the plumber's ship wing, and Kevin has used his abilities to weld them together.
Number 42. In Chapter 7, you can see Ben tugging on his hoodie strings before completely tearing them out, subtly implying that he is much more nervous about the situation than he lets on.
Number 43. The patterns on Vlad's desert outfit resemble his face when he's in his ghost form, fangs and all.
Lastly, let's go over some Easter eggs that we snuck in.
Number 44. One Cronian is modeled after Nathan from Imagine Nathan, a previous project that Kuro worked on for Butch Hartman.
Number 45. On the shelves in Zim's lab, you can see a lot of references to episodes of Invader Zim, the most predominant being Mini Moose from the episode The Most Horrible Xmas Ever.
Number 46. The storage room where Eon keeps all of his alternate Bens resembles Ben 10,000's headquarters in the original series.
Number 47. The DeLorean from Back to the Future can be seen in one of Technis's monitors in Zim's lab. Another monitor shows the information on Zim's Wikipedia article.
Number 48. One of the alternate Bens is based on the Fallout video game franchise. Another is based on Superman from Legion of Superheroes and Sasuke from the Naruto anime. Both characters are voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, the voice of Ben Tennyson from Alien Force Onward. Number 49. All of the alternative Ben's Omnitrixes, aside from Fallout Bens, were designed by O.R. Ashe and have detailed information on how each one works, which can be found on Kuro's website.
Well, it looks like Ryan didn't send me all of his audio, so I'm just going to record the last few facts that he was going to do myself. Number 50. The origami scene contains many cameos. Among the floating figurines, you can see the Poltus Altiari, a Yoda, a few Batman bats, and Eon's home planet, Concordia, and its 3 moons.
Number 51. During the scene where he explains Ecto Energy's true power to Vlad, Eon also indirectly mentions a few other ghosts from Danny Phantom, such as the Box Ghost, Youngblood, Wolf, and Clockwork.
Number 52. The first set of numbers shown on display during Max's call are Paul Eiding's birthday, the voice actor for Grandpa Max in the classic series of Omniverse.
Number 53. When Ben is comparing the relationship between Danny and Vlad, a flashback shot is shown that is based on a screenshot from Vlad's debut episode in Danny Phantom.
Number 54. Ben's uniform transformation scene is meant to resemble the Omnitrix's recalibration in Ben 10 Returns Part 1. Number 55. Starting with Chapter 8, the comic will be image traced from pixels to vectors, giving the comic a cleaner, digital appearance. This will also introduce a slight art style change, as the editing process for the pages are now different.
Number 56. 5 years later has an official Wikia with tons of extra facts and character information. You can apply to be a part of our wiki team in the Discord down below, or visit the site as a fan and learn even more facts that are not in this video, like some of Ben's other new aliens and every single known power a ghost can use Ecto Energy for. Number 57. Chapter 8 is slated for a summer 2019 release and will be over 100 pages long. Thank you guys for checking out our video.
Big shout out to the Patreons who help contribute to this project. If you'd like to help out and receive some exclusive updates no one else gets to lay their eyes on, the link is below.
You can stay up to date on our projects on our social media and join the Discord to talk to other passionate fans.
And as always, keep it fizzy.